guy may try to nuzzle.
Nozzle?
If that happens, you'll need an iron pry bar. Heat it in a fire first, or it may not get my attention.
Veilguard is around the corner, and I don't think I've ever seen such a divided fanbase in my entire life. Regardless of whether you're excited or not, one thing appears to be true. All of you love Dragon Age Origins. I had never played it, and I was very much hesitant on making a commitment to yet another series of games. But after consulting with all of you wonderful people, you made up my mind for me. So I booted up the game and hit play, and dear God.
The hell is that smell?
Yeah, the game kept crashing. So I went to Google, got an earlier patch of the game, then started my first playthrough. And dear God. It's like really good. Baldur's Gate 3 will be my favorite game probably until the day I die. And these two games share so many similarities, it's not even funny. We've got amazing role-playing elements, wonderful storytelling, a litany of decision making that actually affects everything around you, multiple endings for replayability, and another sarcastic goth mommy.
Well, well. What have we here?
Now, comparing these two games will offend a very small portion of you to your very core, and to that, I have this to say. Dragon Age Origins has everything I loved about Baldur's Gate 3 and then some. So without further ado, let's jump right in and make my character. Right after a quick ad break, of course. Whether I'm editing for hours on end or taking my stinky little doggies on a walk, I need earbuds that aren't going to make things more difficult by falling out of my ears or just straight up dying on me. And that's where Raycon's everyday earbuds come into play. To start, these things aren't going anywhere. Look at this. And with a 32-hour battery life, I mean, come on. They have a wonderful ergonomic design that fits in your ear perfectly, which for my wife is a pretty big deal. She has a pretty hard time finding earbuds that fit her specific ears, but these are literally perfect. They come in a plethora of colors to complement different skin tones and feature a wireless charging case that even comes with these stylish protective covers. Very mindful, very demure. So head on over to buyraycon.com/biscuit sticks to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 50% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/biscuit sticks. These earbuds are perfect for me, and I really do think you'll love them. Thanks so much, Raycon. Now back to the video. My adventure begins by creating my character. I will admit the class and race options feel a little bit limited, but the game does make up for this by having tons of slider options. For once, I decided to get out of my comfort zone and created Dixie Normus, a dwarven stealth archer. One of the things that Origins does that I wish a lot more games did was create an entirely different introduction to the game based on both your race and your background. In my case, I'm casteless, a group of dwarves rejected by their gods and forced to live in abject poverty. They get by pretty much the only way they know how, and that's normally resorting to thievery. I guess a group of hawks developed this game because the UI is way too small to read. Nothing a mod can't fix. Much better. In order to keep my concubine and training sister and alcoholic mother safe from the slumlord that runs this place, Jesus, I find myself carrying out any and all dirty work required of me. One of my jobs lands me with no other choice but to assume the identity of a ceremonial fighter. After defeating every combatant, my identity is discovered and I'm sentenced to death. Using my sticky fingers and silver tongue, I'm able to break free from my cage and exact revenge on the slumlord. I'm discovered once again, but this time a Grey Warden named Duncan offers me to either stay here and accept my fate or join his organization. Not really much of a choice here, but hey, what's the worst that can happen, right? This bit of gameplay took roughly 2 hours to complete, and again, it's different for every single background. That's already enough to start a second playthrough in my opinion. Once at the Grey Warden's camp, I give the king of the humans a taste of that good old-fashioned dwarf brashness.
How does Endrin fare these days?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Still, I hope to be as wise and fair a ruler as Endrin. Allow me to be the first to welcome you to Ostagar.
Your welcome means nothing to me, human lord.
I remind you that you speak to the King of Ferelden.
Now, if you're new to the franchise or only played Inquisition like I did, you may be wondering who are the Grey Wardens. They're essentially witchers, but without the cool magic powers. They undergo a dangerous ritual that gives them additional strength at the cost of some rather nasty side effects. Our character exists during the 5th Blight, meaning 4 of these have already happened. It's a vicious cycle, but someone's gotta do it. In order for my joining to become official, I need to first run some errands for Duncan. To help me, I'm given my very first companion, Alistair.
Here I thought we were getting along so well. I was even going to name one of my children after you. The Grumpy One. One good thing about the Blight is how it brings people together.
I hate this guy. I don't know why. I want this guy out of my party as soon as humanly possible. Oh shit, I know what it is. It's giving Gale energy, like his sense of humor and his attitude. It just reminds me of Gale for some reason.
Our first task is to obtain some fresh Darkspawn blood and some old treaties that would allow the Grey Wardens to call upon allies. Within seconds of entering the forest and beginning our quest, we encounter a man on the brink of death. Now I should warn you, I am doing an evil playthrough, primarily because Morrigan is sort of neutral evil and likes when evil stuff happens. A lot of the evil things you're allowed to do in the game are really hard to witness, but I think I found a way to make them much more palatable. Let's talk about combat. Origins uses real-time with pause, which is great because that's what Bioware was good at. This is the exact same combat system that was used in the first 2 Baldur's Gate titles, and it's perfect for the strategy-centric playstyle a lot of the fans crave. We killed plenty of Darkspawn and we got the blood we needed, but when we arrived at the ruins to obtain the treaties, they were already gone. That's when she stepped into my life. This is Morrigan.
I like you.
Join.
I'd be careful. First it's, I like you, but then zap. Frog time.
I love frogs. Shut up, Alistair.
Her and her mother, who's some sort of famous swamp witch, have kept an eye on the treaties, knowing we'd come for them eventually. Once back at the camp, I took some time to explore and commit some more atrocious acts. I stabbed a man begging for food and water, then lied to some kid to steal a sword. Now I had a chance to put down this dog, but even I'm not that evil.
I'm a villain, not a monster.
It's time to undergo the joining. This ceremony entails drinking the fresh blood of these guys. The first guy just straight up died. The second decided he didn't want to join the Grey Wardens after all. And Duncan just stabs him for no reason. Like, damn, you could have let him go home, dude. Maybe he's also trying to impress Morrigan, I don't know. Of course, when I drink it, I emerge with my newfound power. Now let's take a quick break and play Who's the Antagonist? Is it this guy with the blonde hair, smile, and golden armor? Or is it the greasy dude with gray skin and a scowl? The Darkspawn are finally upon us and it's time for battle. Maybe it's my inner Lord of the Rings love, which this is obviously inspired by, but I found this cutscene so badass. Our task during this excursion is to secure the tower and light a beacon to signal the greasy guy when to attack. As our team valiantly cuts their way through hordes of Darkspawn, we eventually reach the tower where an ogre boss awaits us.
Careful, I'm just about to level up and you look like just enough XP. Okay.
We get wiped out on the first try, of course, but on the second attempt, I used the mage instead, and holy shit, these guys are actually super powerful. We light the signal fire, but oh, guess what? The greasy guy betrays us and retreats, leaving King Kalen and the Grey Wardens outnumbered. Both Kalen and Duncan die on the battlefield, and we would have as well if Flim hadn't saved us. With the entirety of the Grey Wardens and humans decimated during the Battle of Ostagar, it is our duty to call upon the allies of Ferelden in one last attempt to stop the Darkspawn menace. That, my friends, is the setup for the rest of the game, and I must admit, I really enjoyed all of that. Ferelden is now technically open to be explored, but it's primarily broken into 4 sections that have us recruiting help from the humans, dwarves, elves, and mages. I'm starting with the humans. In a tiny village outside the kingdom, we cease our travels to create a game plan and, of course, harass the citizens. I stabbed a merchant to death, extorted some scared refugees, threatened a priestess with her life,
Now we threaten priests. How fun!
Freed a murderer, and then even put him on my team. Each and every one of these encounters are full to the brim with choices. I didn't have to do all this evil stuff. To be honest, I didn't even want to. But the game is letting me, and Morrigan absolutely loves it. So everyone beware. While at camp, I tried putting the moves on our goth mommy, and even though I got her affinity pretty high, it wasn't triggering any additional dialogue for romance. Imagine my absolute dismay when I find out Morrigan won't romance female characters. I know I'm built like an orangutan and can tie my shoelaces without bending over, but please just give me a chance. When I finally arrive at Red Cliff, the denizens at the village below are slowly being picked off from something evil that comes down from the castle at night. That sounds scary as hell. I will be leaving. I'm not kidding. They literally give you the option to just leave. That's so funny to me. I've never seen a quest in a video game ever where somebody asks you for help and instead of just saying no, you can turn around and leave and then they just suffer their fate. That is so funny. So many people tried to stop me on my way out, but once you go to camp and come back, they are all gone. Except this dude who has the thickest plot armor in the history of writing. Turns out this guy's nephew accidentally ripped a hole in the the veil, and became possessed by a demon. My job is to stop the demon child and save Arl Eamon, the leader of Redcliffe, who also happens to be this kid's dad, so he can join the Grey Wardens in stopping the Blight. I snuck into the castle through a hidden passage, and it did not take long to find out where the villagers went. The entire place was overrun with undead, and we did quite a bit of fighting. The final boss was a sexy demon lady. I kind of see why a teenage boy made a pact with it. By the end of it all, you get the choice of either straight up putting the child down or performing some sort of ritual that would save him. Now, in Baldur's Gate 3, there are some truly heinous decisions you can make, and they are so bad that when you do it, you're like, damn, I know this is a video game, but this was really not okay. This is that moment, but for Dragon Age Origins.
I tried so hard to save him. And what am I left with? Nothing.
When I finally stopped crying in real life, I realized that Arl Eamon is still in a coma. Unfortunately, we will need some drastically powerful healing magic to bring him back, and only the fabled Ashes of Andraste are strong enough to accomplish this feat. But before we head out to do that, I thought I'd try one of the DLCs that come with the Enhanced Edition. Return to Ostagar gives a whole new level where you go back through the battlefield and pretty much just steal everyone's equipment. The loot is very strong, and it has a pretty good boss at the end. I did enjoy myself quite a bit. When it came time to decide what to do with Kaylin's body, I think you can probably guess what choice we made. Excited to loot more dead people, we arrive at the icy ruins of Andraste's tomb, thanks to this treasure hunter guy. After killing a ton of cultists, we encounter an optional dragon boss that, of course, obliterates us within seconds. Just like with Jirdan from Baldur's Gate 2, we may not be able to kill you now, but we will be back later. Further into the tombs, and we encounter our first handful of puzzles. Bioware is normally pretty decent at riddles and puzzles, so I was surprised it took almost 18 hours of gameplay to find one. I solved a few riddles, used the process of elimination, and got set on fire. Easy enough. On our way out, we made sure to snuff the treasure hunter who helped us, for no other reason but because I can.
Oh, cool. We did a dagger throw that time. Whoa!
Arl Eamon receives the ashes and, of course, makes a full recovery. You would think he'd sentence me to death for taking out his son, but no. Instead, he names us the Champions of Redcliffe. He even vows to help us in the coming fight with the Darkspawn, but now we're fighting on two different fronts. Loghain, the greasy dude from before, is up to no good, blaming the failure at Ostagar on the Grey Wardens. In addition to taking on the Blight, now we also need to convince the people of Ferelden that it was him that turned his back on King Kaelin, not the Grey Wardens. For now, Arl Eamon just wants us to finish collecting our allies, so I'm headed back to my homeland. Before I return to the angry mob waiting for me at Orzammar, I need a better companion than my pooch. I love him to death, I really do, but I do need something a bit stronger. There's another DLC called The Stone Prisoner that allows you to pick up a special companion after a short mission. A small village near Redcliffe is beset by a horde of Darkspawn. After killing them all, one of the villagers say his daughter is trapped in a mage's lab further underground. I love that even within the DLCs, you still have options. and that includes evil options. A demon is trapped by the lab's previous owner, and it asks us to set it free. We don't have to, but we're gonna. Even better, it's leaving by possessing the body of this little girl. Her unknowing father is so happy about her rescue, he gives us everything needed to bring the golem outside back to life. We approach the golem, who apparently has nothing better to do than follow us around and kill darkspawn, and maybe some birds along the way. With our new friend and some really strong light armor crafted in Dinarim, we head back to try that dragon again. We died probably 6 or 7 times, and right when I was about to give up and move on, Morrigan pulls out the win by soloing the dragon for a quarter of its health. The loot on it was pretty nice, and later on we're going to make some cool armor from its scales. As our team waltzes through the gates of Orzammar, there was actually a mob waiting, but not for me. Turns out King Indrin had died while I was gone, and Dwarven tradition claims they have to choose a new one by essentially yelling at each other until they come to an agreement. I can't get the dwarves to agree to assist in fighting the Blight if they don't have a king, so we have a new objective. My sister is so happy to see me, and she makes a critical mistake by telling me how much better her life has been since I left. She's become a concubine and is fathering one of the children of a dwarf that's in line for the throne. Now that she's out of the slums and living in the palace, things are finally looking up. My job now is to ruin as much of that as I possibly can. I head straight for her husband's competition, Lord Harrowmont, and enlist in his services. After cutting down some fighters in another competition and dismantling the entirety of Orzammar's underground thieves, I have only one task left before they'll crown Harrowmont as king. A high-ranking member of Dwarven society is lost deep in the Underdark, and if I can bring her back alive, she'll likely vouch for whoever I want to crown as king. So let's get to work. Now, some of you may disagree with me on this, and that's fine, but the deep roads, in my humble opinion, were by far the worst part of this game. I spent hours in this area trying to find the lady for this mission, and if I wasn't recording for a video, this may have been a quitting point for me. It's the same enemies over and over in the same drab corridors. If they had cut the length of this mission in half, it would still be too long. Again, this is just my opinion, you don't have to agree. Now, the Broodmother boss fight, that was great. Maybe even the best boss fight in the entire game, but I don't think I can show it since I don't want to catch a ban. Now, the icing on this painfully long cake was the insane difficulty spike when we did finally find Bronca. She has you make a choice. You can either fight with her to kill this old dwarven golem smith dude so she can restore the power of the anvil and begin crafting golems again, or side with the golem and destroy the anvil to prevent more souls from being bastardized into stone henchmen. The evil thing to do would be fighting with Bronca and restoring the anvil. But if you do that, Shale will turn on you, and now you're down a fighter, so that's not an option. Okay, so we have to fight Bronca, but this lady is just built different. Anyone locked in a 1v1 with her dies incredibly fast, and what little helpers we have aren't staying alive long enough for it to matter. Not to mention she can even heal mid-fight and, of course, summon clones of herself, because why not? This encounter almost broke me. After 6 hours in this hellhole with virtually no healing potions and 2 hours fighting just her, I was close to throwing in the towel. But the thought of disappointing Morrigan, and even worse, disappointing you all, gave me the strength to finally defeat her by essentially just running away the entire fight. It's not the most honorable of strategies, but when she aggroes just one teammate, have them run in circles while the rest of the team takes down the golems. Then you can use a mage or shale to deplete all the lyrium deposits, stopping her from healing, and begin fighting her in a 4v1.
Come on. I cannot believe it's done. I cannot believe that it's finally done. Dear God.
She's finally dead, and I can wrap up this god-awful mission. The writing here, I will admit, is really great. We found out Shale used to be a lady dwarf, which is not something I saw coming, and we learned that the powerful golems the dwarves relied on for so long came with a really hefty price. With Bronca dead, the golem dude vouches for Harrowmont, ensuring this trip was not a complete waste of time. When we arrive back in Orzammar, we have enough credit to sway the dwarven nobles in electing Harrowmont king. My sister's husband does not like losing and gets so upset he actually tries to fight us and just ends up dying pitifully. Now that my sister's life has been thoroughly dismantled, we can move on to the Circle of Mages. These last few quests are pretty short, so we'll just bundle them together. Knowing what I know now, I would have done these two missions before doing the deep roads to catch a few more levels and be a little bit more prepared. When I arrived at the Circle of Mages, I simply walked in, asked their leader for help, and they said yes. Moving on. Now, of course, every single faction in this game is severely dysfunctional, and once again, it's up to me to sort out their bullshit. One of the mages here did an oopsie, and now the tower is overrun with demons. The Templars are pretty upset about the mages bringing about yet another disaster, and asked me to essentially cull the remainder of surviving mages, including this old lady and her friends. Clearing the rest of the demons was pretty easy until we reached the top floor. A sloth demon was waiting and puts us into a deep sleep. I saw people online talking about how much they hated this section of the game, and maybe it's just because it's my first run, but I thought this was a breath of fresh air. Your character is stuck in a different realm called the Fade and needs to find a way out. Pretty simple. As you continue to explore this bizarre dreamlike world, you pick up different transformations that you can use to traverse previously obstructed areas of the map. The rat was boring as hell, but the others were a lot of fun to play as. There's of course the rat to climb through small holes, a mage demon with higher magic resistance, a flaming undead to traverse fire unharmed, and a large golem for destroying literally everything in its path. I wish this was a mechanic we saw more of throughout the game, or maybe this could have been like a class all by itself. I don't know, but again, I really enjoyed this. We also picked up a ton of permanent stat boosts along the way, which would have been incredibly helpful in the deep roads, but again, hindsight is 2020. After rescuing all the members of my party, we confront the sloth demon and finish him off. The Templars are happy with our massacre of mages and swear to fight against the Blight in place of the Circle. The last of the 4 treaties are the Dalish Elves. This was also a pretty short mission, but I really enjoyed the morality of the decision making. So far, the game has been pretty black and white. If you kill the bad guy, it's good. If you help the bad guy, it's bad. But both groups involved with the Dalish Elves are evil in their own way, so it's not as easy to decide. When you arrive at the elf camp, they state they're being attacked by parties of werewolves, and they'd be willing to help with the war against the Blight if we get rid of them. But once we speak with the werewolves, we learn that the leader of the Dalish Elves actually placed the curse on the werewolves in the first place as some sort of vengeance for something that happened hundreds of years ago. The curse manifested this spirit who does its best to help the werewolves control their bloodthirsty nature. They attack now only to convince the elf leader to end their suffering. So who is the bad guy in this case? Like I said, it's not so black and white, and I love that. Ultimately, I made my decision based on one simple fact. Werewolves are badass. We confront the leader of the elves and give him one last chance to remove the curse. When he refuses, we have no other option but to cut them all down. Once the elves have been wiped out, the werewolves swear themselves to the Grey Wardens in the fight to come. And that concludes the 4 primary missions that are the bulk of Dragon Age Origins. It's time for the Grey Wardens to bolster their support and rally the Lords of Ferelden for the Landsmeet. The Landsmeet is a gathering of all the nobles of Ferelden to decide the fate of the kingdom. This is what we've been working towards this whole time, but we're not quite done. To start, we need to save the queen from Loghain. We have it on good authority that her life is at risk. With her on our side, we have a much better chance of currying favor with the lords and ladies. After sneaking into the palace by wearing a guard's uniform, I free the queen from a magical barrier and head for safety. Before we can leave, we're confronted by seemingly impossible odds, and we have a choice to either fight or surrender. If you give in, you're arrested and forced to escape capture in Fort Drakon. I, however, chose to just fight. This is supposed to be the hardest fight in the entire game, but if you run to the back rooms of the palace, the boss will follow you and you have a chance to fight her alone. After that, just spam blizzards in the main room until everyone else is dead. Now that the queen is safe, we just need to secure the support of the Denerim elves. We find out that Loghain has been selling the elves of this city into indentured servitude. Again, I'm an evil guy, so I gotta do the evil thing and just let these guys go. Thanks to my incredibly high persuasion, I was able to even save 100 sovereigns in the ordeal as well, which is like a lot of money. It's finally time for our confrontation with Loghain. The voice acting here is the best in the entire game. I mean, they really got their money's worth.
Stand with me, and we shall defeat
even the Blight itself!
On my first attempt, I was able to secure the favor of a handful of nobles, but it wasn't enough, and Loghain manages to turn everyone against me. Initially, I thought this was just because the queen stabbed me in the back and decided to support Loghain regardless of my saving her. But after further research, it appears the Landsmeet works on a point system. You need 5 points to beat Loghain. The queen is worth 3 points, but somehow I pissed her off and she won't side with me now. I have no clue what I did wrong there. Maybe someone can tell me in the comments. The support of every other noble in attendance is worth the remaining 5 points needed to win. So I loaded a previous save and did some additional side quests to gain some extra favor. That, mixed with my high persuasion, was just enough to turn the Landsmeet against Loghain. I tell him to 1v1 me on Rust, no screen peeking, and he gets his ass beat. The game will now let you make a decision to either execute Loghain or save him and have him as a potential companion. I feel like the evil thing to do here would be keeping him alive just to piss off Alistair. To sweeten the deal, I decided to support the traitorous queen's claim to the throne instead of Alistair's, and she calls for his execution instead to prevent a revolution. He feels incredibly betrayed by this, but I don't know why. I've kept him at the camp for the entire game, sitting alone in his underwear. He should have left when he had the chance. The forces of Ferelden are finally united and ready to take on the Blight. Now, the only real way to destroy the Blight is by destroying the dragon archdemon that controls the Horde. The dragon is technically invincible unless a Grey Warden delivers the killing blow. In doing so, the dragon's soul will collide with that of the Grey Warden, killing both myself and the demon. Hence why Grey Wardens are the only ones able to actually destroy a Blight. Morrigan, however, has a different idea. If she is with child during the killing blow of the archdemon, its soul will go into her unborn child instead, saving my life and giving Morrigan a child with untold powers. This sounds incredibly devious, and I am so down for it. I first have to find someone to give her the child. Thankfully, a certain greasy man owes me his life and isn't really in a position to say no. They conduct the ritual, and we're off to finish the game. The city of Denerim hosts the final battle. While you cut through the hordes of enemies, you're able to call on the allies you've made throughout the game. Of course, this means we're able to defend the city alongside werewolves, Templars, dwarves, and Redcliffe soldiers. The final boss awaits us at the highest point in the city, and while it looks incredibly cool, it's not even close to the hardest encounter, especially since you can call for help here as well. Using the ballistas placed throughout the arena, we whittle the demon down until Sten delivers the most cinematic final blow I've ever seen. And that's it. That is Dragon Age Origins. Our team has saved Ferelden and the rest of the world from the Blight, and now our companions go their separate ways. We never find out what happens with the demon baby inside Morrigan, but maybe it tells us in another game, I don't know. This entire experience was dark, gritty, brutal, and just so much fun. It feels very inspired by both the D&D universe and A Song of Ice and Fire, which, no shit, makes one of the best combinations in gaming history. I'm really excited to go back and do a lawful good mage. I have a feeling mages can do some pretty crazy damage if min-maxed. Huge shout out to the members. Thank you so incredibly much for supporting the channel. Members get access to additional perks like early ad-free access to regular uploads and a member's badge. If you're interested in becoming a member, check the description for more details. I'll see you all in the next one. Later. Heroic accomplishments. We killed 531 things. Most powerful foe slain. Somehow was a Genlock Conjurer, when it probably should say that it was that big old fucking dragon. But anyways, damage dealt 111,000. Greatest damage dealt was 572. That is from Arrow of Slain. I don't know why it's so overtuned, but I am so happy to have it regardless. Friendly fire damage dealt. I don't even know how I did that at all, but contribution to party damage is 21%. That hurts my feelings, but nice. Here are our team kills. Money spent. Most money at once. Conversations initiated. World explored 87%. Yeah, seems right. Time played 38 hours. But only 42% of it is complete. So, you know, whatever.